In a war, it is rarely the people who die first, but the truth. On the grasslands, a revered shaman is murdered, but the killer deliberately leaves behind traces of several different tribes. The horses belong to one tribe, the armor resembles another, and the attack style mirrors a third. All these clues are like arrows pointed directly at the fragile peace between the 8 tribes. If you were a tribal leader, what would you choose? Would you seek immediate revenge, slaughtering all the suspects? Or would you suppress your rage and gamble that the truth might still surface? But the cruelest irony is that someone is waiting for exactly that kind of restraint. Because as soon as the tribal leaders gather together and, according to ancient custom, lay down their weapons, that so-called peace summit will become a slaughterhouse without a single blade. In the grasslands of 800 BC, there are no city walls, no established laws, only tribes, blood oaths, the glory of ancestors, and a divine will that no one can quite define. In this land, a mountain is not just a mountain, and a river is not just a river. Every stone might harbor the soul of an ancestor, and every horse might determine the life or death of a war. And in the Angle tribe, a boy named Kavtai is being pushed to the threshold of destiny. He was born into royalty, and as 12 springs have passed, he must undergo the traditional wolf-riding ritual.
Royal sons should have grander designs and see further than ordinary folk which we usually see.
But a boy is, in the end, still a boy. Standing at the mouth of the cave, he is afraid. From the darkness comes the scent of wolves, like a cold wind rising from the depths of the earth. Kavtai enters anyway. He leaves his fear in the cave, and he leaves his childhood there as well. By the time he emerges, everyone knows that the boy of the Angle tribe is no longer just the chief's son. He has become the future protector of the Survey Mountains. Yet, it is not just the ritual that changes his destiny. He discovers a massive, crystal-clear Shuna gem in the mountains. It is too beautiful, a beauty that doesn't belong on the grasslands. To an ordinary person, it could be traded for 10 good deeds, a beautiful wife, or even greater wealth. But his grandfather sees further. He tells Kavtai that this is not a stone to be sold lightly. It belongs to the mountain, and it belongs to the homeland beneath their feet. Outsiders will see only its value. They will take what they want and leave behind a hollowed-out land. If the mountain is taken, the tribe will not just lose its wealth, it will lose itself. At the time, Kavtai does not fully grasp this, for the world, in the eyes of a boy, has not yet been scorched by war. He does not yet know that a gem can make a man kneel, and it can also make him draw his blade. At the ceremony, the tribe cheers for him. His father hands him the sun blade, passed down through generations. But just as the Angle tribe celebrates the boy's coming of age, blood has already been spilled on the other side of the grasslands. The great shaman Taliga has been killed. The messenger who rushes in brings not just news, but a fire. He says that Taliga was viciously murdered while they were still in their dwelling, and that the killers wore gold garments, rode the legendary second breath horses, and moved as fast as the wind. They came suddenly and vanished just as quickly. All attempts at pursuit became a farce. Even more terrifying is that the clues left at the scene are too complete. The armor resembles that of the Angle tribe. The horses look like those of the Jonos tribe. The engravings are like the work of the dark artisans, and the time of the attack aligns with the habits of yet another tribe.
These people are focused. They want to break the peace between the 8 tribes.
Kavtai's elders must make a decision. If they seek immediate revenge, the grasslands will be drowned in blood. If they pretend nothing happened, the tribe of the deceased will not accept it. Therefore, they choose to convene the 8-tribe summit. All the leaders will gather together to uncover the truth behind Taliga's death and find the mastermind. It sounds like the most rational way to prevent war, but some traps are designed to look exactly like rationality. Because the 8-tribe summit has an ancient rule, leaders cannot carry weapons. Peaceful meetings must be free of blades. This is the ritual left by their ancestors. But once the enemy knows that all the powerful will arrive unarmed, this ritual becomes a noose around their necks. Meanwhile, the Jonos tribe is also being drawn into the vortex. Their second breath horses have been stolen, and with the legendary war horses in the hands of the killer, the suspicion is cast directly upon them. Arsai is both furious and vigilant. He knows this is not a simple case of horse theft. Someone is not only killing but also framing the Jonos.
Do you have plenty of wolves? In the mountains to the north?
There wasn't a wolf. That's my only son, Shalu. He's the only son who was saved by the rituals. We left my dear son in a den of wolves for 3 months, as the chief of Versailles suggested us all. I'll never forget it.
By the time his father found him again, he was no longer a child. He was more like a wolf, walking out of the wilderness. He returned to human society, but he never truly belonged to it. He runs to the mountains on full moon nights, howling like a wolf. The horses fear him because they can smell the wolf on him. The people fear him too, because they do not know whether to treat him as one of their own or as a monster returned by nature. Shalu does not offer many explanations. He simply draws on the cave walls. At first, Kavtai looked down on him too. He provoked Shalu, asking if he thought that just because he had ridden a legendary horse, he had become something great. He even used his dignity as a man to sting him, but Shalu's counter was calm. He said that perhaps he has the blood of the ancient, and perhaps he was raised by wolves, but he is no one's shadow. He is just Shalu. Those words stopped Kavtai in his tracks, because he suddenly realized that this boy, treated as an outcast by everyone, was also fighting desperately to prove himself. One has just completed the wolf riding ritual, while the other has survived the wolf's den. One is burdened with the destiny of protecting the mountain, while the other has been pushed away from the crowd by fate. They appear to be opposites, but in reality, they are trapped by the same things. The names given to them by their tribes, and the mission pressed upon them by the sky. Their relationship begins to change. Kavtai no longer sees Shalu just as a freak. He begins to look seriously at those drawings. Especially when Shalu draws arrows embedded in frames and scenes of blood and fire, Kavtai feels an indescribable chill. They do not know what these drawings mean, but they both feel that something evil is approaching. Omens on the grasslands are increasing. A hunting party sees a headless animal running. It has no head, yet it moves through the forest, as if being dragged forward by death. Some say this is a sign of a violent end. None of the men in the party allowed their weapons to taste blood, so they could not have been the ones to cut that head off. This means that there are perhaps other hunters, or other killers, in the vicinity. A daughter begs her father not to go to the lands of the Kiri, but the father does not believe it. He says he has seen too much blood in his life, and too many so-called omens. The 8 tribes have maintained good relations with his people for years. He has no reason to fear his neighbors, and certainly wouldn't cancel his trip because of a headless animal. Before disaster strikes, people are most prone to relying on their past experiences, but the past cannot save him.
Meanwhile, the interior of Kavtai's clan is also shrouded in unrest. Before their departure, the horse harness snaps. According to tradition, when such an omen appears, one must stop for 3 days, make offerings to the sky, and then set out again. But the summit is imminent, and the chief cannot be absent. He knows that if he does not go, the rift between the 8 tribes will only widen. Thus, he decides to continue. Before leaving, the elders tell Kavtai to call Meklen to the mountains. The conversation is as heavy as a final testament. The elder tells him that Kavtai was born with a blue mark of the sky on his body. The great shaman once said this child's destiny is vital to the heavens. He may grow to become the protector of all. Therefore, the bloodline of the Survey mountain protector must not be broken. The elder asks Meklen to protect Kavtai until he has truly come of age. In that moment, Meklen realizes he is not just guarding a nephew, but a bloodline pointed toward the future by prophecy. But the troubles in the tribe do not come only from the outside. Meklen and Sorkun are in love. They exchange vows between the mountains and waters, swapping bracelets that symbolize love and loyalty. They believe that as long as their hearts remain pure, their love will not be tarnished. But love on the grasslands is never just a matter between 2 people.
I could see in your eyes. Something is bothering you.
My father wouldn't approve of us. He agreed to let me choose any man as long as he has passed the wolf rites.
Behind it stand fathers, brothers, marriage contracts, tribal interests, and traditions sharper than any blade. Worse, Meklen's brother seems to want to take her as his second wife. The love has not yet had the chance to bloom before being ensnared by power and familial ties. Meklen says he will handle it, that he will ask for her hand after his father returns from the summit. But they do not know that many who head toward the summit may never return.
At this point, the conspiracy finally reveals a deeper layer. The White Skull tribe has emerged. They are not ordinary bandits. Their hatred is old enough to have grown into their bones.
The 8 tribes that brutally crushed our ancestors like beetles, they still sit above my head asking for vengeance. We, the White Skull tribe, lost entire authority. We roam as if we are some stray bitches. We have no herd, and we can't hunt either. We scavenge with the wolves and eat carcasses. I can't stand this life. I can't.
But hatred itself is not scary. What is scary is that someone knows how to use that hatred. A mysterious figure named Azar approaches them. He does not act like a mere avenger, but more like a man who counts gold coins over corpses. He tells the White Skull that the nobles of the 8 tribes will gather on a moonless night, and according to the rules, they cannot carry weapons. This is the White Skull's chance to return beneath the sky. Even more tempting is the Shuna gem of the Survey Mountains. Azar knows the land is rich with gems, and he knows the Angul and Jonos tribes possess it. The conditions he offers are clear: horses, weapons, wealth, and future power. As long as they cooperate, the White Skull will no longer have to rely on the leftovers of wolves. They can raise their banner once again. It sounds like salvation, but it is actually a transaction. And the cruelest part of any transaction is that everyone thinks they are the ones using the others. On the other side, Khadun's ambition begins to be unveiled. Some accuse him of wanting to become the supreme leader of all the tribes, which is why he had to eliminate Taliga. Because Taliga was not just a shaman. His reputation was so great that many followed his words as they would follow a prophecy. As long as Taliga lived, the 8 tribes would not easily bow to any one person. This accusation is like a knife, stabbing directly into the darkest part of grassland politics. So-called unification is sometimes just ambition wearing a sacred garment. So-called divine will is sometimes just an excuse the powerful make for themselves. It caused the angry son, Karkui, to lose his mind, and it brought the blood feud between the Kiri and Kadan tribes to the brink of explosion. Karkui storms in, demanding revenge, saying his father cannot die like a worthless mongrel. He wants justice, and if no one gives it to him, he will take it himself. At this moment, Iksevji makes a crucial decision. To prevent the conflict from immediately escalating into a massacre, he is willing to become a hostage, remaining in their hands until the 8-tribe summit uncovers the truth. An old man uses his own body to briefly block the rage of the youth, but this only proves how dangerous the situation has become. If someone pushes it just a little further, the peace of the 8 tribes will crack right down the middle. And the children are still fighting their fate in their own way. Kavtai discovers that Shalu wants to ride a second breath horse, but the horse fears his wolf scent and won't let him near. So Kavtai comes up with an absurd yet sincere plan. Wash Shalu with juniper, then smoke him with juniper to mask the scent. The boys fuss over him until he is almost gasping for air. Shalu complains, but he endures it, because for him, riding a horse is not just about riding a horse. It is his chance to prove to everyone that he is not a monster, and it is his first opportunity to truly enter the world of humans. This scene seems lighthearted, but it is one of the few warm moments in the entire story. While the adults are tearing the grasslands apart with conspiracies, blood feuds, and power, the 2 boys still believe that solutions can be found, that friends can help each other, and that someone rejected by a horse might one day run with the wind. But fate does not stop for the sincerity of boys. The shadow of the summit looms ever closer. People are attacked on the road. Some are forced to flee to deliver messages. Some intentionally leave a survivor, only to ensure that fear spreads even further. The blades of the White Skull are already drawn. Azar's plan is already in motion, and Khadun's ambition is intertwined with the suspicions of the tribes. Everyone claims to be doing it for their ancestors, for their tribe, for divine will, but those who truly bleed are always the ones who haven't yet figured out the truth. Kavtai grips the sunblade, the blue mark of the sky upon him. In Shalu's dream drawings, fire burns between the 2 of them. The Shuna gem still lies quietly in the secret of the mountain, like a heart waiting to be fought over. Taliga's blood has not yet dried, and the anger of the 8 tribes has already been lit. At this moment, the grasslands are like a bow drawn to its limit. Everyone thinks they are hunting the killer, but the true killer may be hiding behind the crowd, watching as they walk, step by step, into the same trap. Everyone thinks the summit is the final chance for peace, but perhaps, from the very beginning, it was the battlefield chosen by the enemy. Even more terrifying is that this war has not truly begun. When the leaders lay down their weapons, when the white skull raises their blades, when oppressed hatred collides with greedy ambition, and when the boys finally understand that protecting their home is not about guarding a stone, but about forcing oneself to see the truth when everyone else wants to kill the wrong person. At that moment, Kavtai must make a choice. Will he believe in ancient rules, or will he believe in the blood before his eyes? Will he protect his own tribe, or will he prevent all the tribes from heading toward destruction together? And this is where the film is truly ruthless. It is not a story about how a boy becomes a hero, but a story about a world beginning to collapse before a boy is even prepared to be a hero. It is not simply about who is good and who is evil, because everyone can provide their own reasons. The Kiri want revenge, the White Skull want a revival, Kadun wants power, Azar wants the gem, the tribes want survival, and the elders want to preserve tradition. But no matter how many reasons there are, they cannot wash the blood off the blades. When an era is about to change, those who believe in the rules are often the first to be sacrificed. Those who have truly suffered are often the first to be used. And those who haven't yet learned how to lie are often the first to be pushed to the forefront. Kavtai and Shalu, one marked by the sky, the other raised by wolves. They stand at opposite ends of the grassland's fate, yet they are illuminated by the same fire. If they cannot see the truth, the 8 tribes will tear each other apart. If they see the truth but have no power to stop it, the Survey Mountains will eventually be hollowed out by the greedy. So the question is never about who wins this war. The real question is, when everyone is wrapped in the cloak of justice to kill, do you still dare to believe that peace is not weakness, and that revenge is not necessarily dignity? If you were Kavtai, holding the blade passed down by your ancestors, with your father's killer, your tribe's enemy, the oppressed, and the true mastermind standing before you, would you save your own people first? Or would you save the grasslands that are already being burned to ash by hatred?